Now, today's video is one in a series of videos where I have actually been documenting my journey on building an electric go-kart. So if you haven't already watched that, I'll leave a link to that somewhere on the screen. Now, today's episode is kind of special because I actually finally get to assemble the go-kart. I might actually be able to drive it. And one thing that I currently anticipate is I'm going to be using my feet as brakes, like the Flintstones. So let's get to it. First of all, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch my YouTube video about this crazy idea. So this is all the parts that I'm going to be needing for the electric go-kart. As you can see, I've laid them out in the order that I am going to be putting them into the go-kart. And to begin with, this is the chassis. So this took me a couple of months, maybe 3 months to build. I was actually anticipating it would take less amount of time, but it's fine because I actually ended up learning a lot. I recently had this painted. You may watch that from my previous YouTube video. So every bracket holds onto something. It's as minimal as I could get it for the skills that I have, because this was the first time I was ever welding. This was the first time I was ever doing any metal work. So along the way, as you may see from the YouTube playlist on how to build a go-kart, or I think I named it something different, but just go to my YouTube channel and you'll see it. Now, let's start from the front. Actually, let's go back to the chassis. So when I said I come from Kilifi, that's basically on the Kenyan coast, and Kenyan coast is usually quite humid. So the reason I painted this orange was I saw something similar to it in an orange color and I liked it, but it didn't have to be painted in orange. But I did have to. If I was in Nairobi, I don't think I would have had to deal with rust as much as I have dealt with rust on this project as much as I have. So yeah, the humidity is really, should I call it a bitch? But it is what it is. That is kind of done. Let's move on to the next thing. So the front assembly. So we have the two front wheels, and over there, that bracket looking thing, that's the steering column. Alongside that, we have the steering wheel. We have a wiring harness, all different connections and switches for lights. Oh, and by the way, I actually do have front end rear lights. That's one of the rear lights over there. The other one is over there. And then let's see. This is the accelerator. This is the seat, of course. Steering wheel. Speedometer, the digital speedometer. I have something of the equivalence of WD-40 over there. First rear wheel, second rear wheel. And this axle is something of a special story because the working of this axle was actually what delayed this project the most. When it came, it did not have these keys. So these keys, I had to get them machined into the shafts or the axles. And then have these brackets that support the brake disc and the sprocket on either side. I had to have them cut in a certain way that they would accept these keys. And that way it would form a mechanical connection between the shaft, the sprocket, and the brake disc. This actually took 6 weeks. Could have taken 1 week, but I just chose the wrong supplier to do the job. I do regret it, but I mean, we're here. So let's move on to the battery. This battery is a 72 volt 30 amp hour battery. It's capable of 7200 watts of discharge. That's 7.2 kilowatts of discharge. And over here I have all the necessary tools I need to start putting all of this together, and a couple of bags of screws. Okay, sit back, relax, and watch me do the assembly process. So next I want to mount the motor and the controller, get that wired up. The motor has been mounted, controller has been mounted, and then what the next thing is, just shorten this chain using this chain cutting tool. And then now I want to press this pin back into that section of the chain, it's down there, and link the chain together. We finally have a working drive system. A bit tight, but it's just subject to a bit of adjustment. I guess it's time to Flintstone. Okay. Can you hear my shoes? Oh my god, it is so fast. Oh. I'm trembling. It's so fast. Akiwa na maliza tu viatu. Totally worth it.
Again.
You wanna try it?
No, you do it again. How are you breaking?
My shoes.
Ask my shoe.
Mad fun. So it's the next day. I am continuing with my assembly process. I was silly enough not to tighten some grab screws over here and lost them. So unfortunately I have to use really long ones and I don't like that. But it's okay as long as I do not have any clearance issues. So you can see this is the original one. Okay, let's go to the front. One thing that I definitely hate about this go-kart is the position of that pedal. It's not ergonomic at all. And there's basically too much space at the back here that is not being used. So the driver is really forced to sit way too forward. And it's a strange experience, but you kind of forget it because of how fast this thing actually is. Got some falling nuts. This goes in here. mounted the brake to use bolts as spacers just to make sure that there is enough clearance somewhere inside there. You can see it's popping out just a bit. The first thing that I would like to do is cut off these bent sections because they do not add any value to the system. In fact, there is actually a section of the brake disc that touches onto this piece of metal. So the pedals are in the complete wrong position, and this is something that I experienced when I first drove this vehicle. Now, some of the modifications that I need to make include creating a mounting point for the master cylinder. As your foot is sat onto this pad, it's supposed to push onto it, same way a normal vehicle works, and then that is supposed to compress this piston into the master cylinder, thereby creating braking force at the brake caliper. If I decide to mount this directly on this, it will actually end up pulling, which is not the way it was designed to work. I wish it was, by the way. That would have made my work so much simpler. However, I do have a little advantage in that this actually works as a lever system. So this is the first section of the lever, and then there's the fulcrum, and then the load can be applied to this section that I'm touching over here, so that when it moves, it actually ends up compressing. So I'm gonna have to do a couple of modifications down here just to make that work. The second thing is mounting this onto this piece of angle iron. So I have to shave off a couple of sections so that I can do the welding, can do welding on paint. And then let's see how far we get, because at this point I am just winging it. Now, I'm not 100% sure it clears properly over there where the pads touch the disc. You can just adjust it this way or that way depending on what actually fits. So let's move on to the front. Just finished polishing up that angle iron, and now I've taken out this step drill. I can drill in multiple different steps for different holes, but I wanted to point out something. So this is a different brake line. This is the brake line that I actually started designing the car with. This was a secondary one. As it turns out, it's actually longer than I expected it to be compared to this one. So this is why I kept saying that the length of the vehicle would have been determined by this brake line. Unbeknownst to me, I had a second one that was long enough. So I'm going to use this as a template just to mock out that one. Here's the plan. I want to cut out this so that, first of all, it's fairly a right angle. As you can see, it's angled. But just get an inch out of this. Is it an inch? An inch and a half out of this, actually. And then put two of them running from here to the front. So that's two here, and then two on the other side. Which means I need to go and get more iron. Oof, sunset looks nice. I miss working from up here. If it weren't for the heat though. Okay. This is what I came for. So let's see how far I've gotten. These two pieces are supposed to be a mirror image of each other, such that they fit something like that. Oh, they're still hot. So up next is this one. Another night has fallen and I'm still working on this. What do we have now? Okay. I've drilled a hole through one of the angle irons and then put a bolt as a spacer, and then I've just bolted on this other side just to have this in place so that I can use this master cylinder itself as a template. So I'll just drill a hole using this hole. I've got holes. So bakia kuzipanua tu. Let me show you what my setup is gonna be like. So I have these nuts that are big and I'm not really using them for anything until now. I'm gonna use them as spacers. And then for this second piece, it goes into the hole like that. And then I'm gonna do the same one, same kind of setup for this hole at the back. Tomorrow I'll weld it on, same to the other side, which are over there. I'm gonna weld on this other side just so I can have a place to put my foot as I'm accelerating. And this is actually doing double duty because it's also holding the master cylinder, not master caliper. Now I've got it positioned. Cylinder is down there. Bolts as spacers, just being held on by friction. Next thing is going to be shaving off this paint and then welding on these pieces on both ends from here and here. Oh, final update for the night. I have the master cylinder installed somewhere down here. New problem, solve one problem and create another. This might be too low, so if I do end up running over something and then busting my brake fluid container, I will obviously lose braking power. But anyway, it's a problem for when it arises. And then on this other side, just building a platform for the accelerator. As you can see, it doesn't clear the cable, which is over here. Is it over here? So I'll also modify this a bit just to make sure that I have enough clearance for that. Ini kazi ya kesho maze, ni a bit, but I'm glad that I was actually able to do this. So I'm just gonna take this apart, put it in the house so it doesn't get rust. Tomorrow I'll go and look for spray paint, orange spray paint again. Once I'm done shaving off, welding, and then I'll repaint it again. And we should be good for one good run with brakes this time. And yes, I do have extra brake fluid. And finally, I know you're liking what you're saying, so please subscribe, share this information with people who you think might be interested, because I know you know people who might be interested in this kind of content, made in Kenya. So tuendelee kuchapa kazi hivi hivi. In my infinite wisdom, I forgot to totally record what I was doing. Finally, a place to rest my foot or my feet. What's next? I wanna modify the brake pedal just a bit, turn this section 90 degrees so that you can have an attachment point for the brake. So the idea is to take this piece that I cut off, so it was previously like this, put it some over there through welding, by welding that is. And there we have it. Time to fit it. Okay, to be honest, I'm not sure whether that's enough brake travel. That's all it's getting for now, because next I want to put in some brake fluid and bleed these brakes. And then for this, I noticed that the pads inside here are really tight, so I want to push out the pistons and I think go for a test drive. Look at all that brake fluid that I lost just trying to make this thing work. I mean, the pedal moves and it moves quite far back. The brake pad's actually kind of clamping onto the disc, but it's not clamping hard enough. I don't know whether it's the caliper design, probably not, probably just me. I haven't figured out how to do brakes, but hey, it's given me enough headache. I'ma call it a week. I'm not even gonna call it a day. I feel like I don't want to work on this for the next 1-2 weeks or something. Hiyo ni brake inashika hivyo. Inaweza.
Ukiteka brake basi.